The wind clawed the hill as if it meant to uncover what the earth had tried to forget. Snow, thin as ash, rode the gusts, sweeping across the crown of a ruin where only a circle of stones marked that men had once ruled here. A lone figure climbed the slope. His gray cloak whipped like torn sailcloth, his staff biting into the frozen ground. Gandalf did not rush. To hurry was to betray the gravity of the place, and tonight gravity had teeth. Each step felt watched not by eyes, but by memory. He paused at the summit and listened. Not to the storm, but beneath it. A silence existed here that had nothing to do with snow or wind. It was the silence of a secret, the kind that grows heavier the longer it is buried. The old wizard knelt, pressed a hand to the ground, and whispered words in a tongue no man of this age remembered. The soil shifted as if it had been waiting for the command, splitting like lips parting to confess. A stone coffer rose slowly, crusted with moss, sealed by locks that had rusted without surrendering. Gandalf's eyes flickered, a mixture of weariness and dread. He had hidden this box decades ago, alone, telling no one, not Elrond, not Galadriel, not even Saruman, though he had nearly bitten his own tongue holding the silence. For wisdom does not always share its burdens, sometimes it buries them. He brushed frost from the lid and saw the faint etching of Númenórean craft. The design was older than most ruins standing in the north, cut by hands long gone to dust. A thing meant to last too long, perhaps. The lock yielded beneath the edge of his staff, and the coffer sighed open. Inside lay the sphere. Black as obsidian, it seemed not to reflect but to drink the moonlight. No gleam sat on its surface, only an unbroken depth, as though the night itself had been condensed into a perfect globe. Looking upon it was like staring into water and realizing the water is staring back. Gandalf's breath fogged in the air. He reached, then stopped, as if his own hand had betrayed him by moving too quickly. The stone pulsed faintly, not with light, but with suggestion. In the corner of his mind he thought he heard a voice low, persuasive, almost tender. "You were right to keep me. You alone. Only you can carry this weight." The wizard's fingers hovered above it. For the briefest moment, he saw flashes, a white tree burning, towers crumbling, 1,000 soldiers kneeling before a crowned figure whose face was hidden in shadow. His heartbeat faltered. Then he shut the coffer with a crack that startled even the wind. He wrapped the box in cloth, muttering a counter-charm to quiet the whispers. His eyes had hardened. He had not come to seek wisdom tonight. He had come to confirm a fear. Someone or something had stirred the stone awake. Far below, in the woods skirting the hill, another figure moved silently. Aragorn, son of Arathorn, crouched among the pines, eyes fixed on the wizard above. He had followed at Gandalf's request, though without explanation. Tracking came naturally to him, trusting without knowing did not. The ranger's hand rested on the hilt of his sword. He saw the coffer rise, saw the wizard's posture tighten, saw something in the air itself ripple like heat above fire. His instincts told him that no simple relic could cause such unease in Gandalf the Grey. When Gandalf descended at last, staff planted firm in the snow, he found Aragorn waiting at the tree-lean. Their eyes met, and though neither spoke immediately, the unspoken truth passed between them. This was no errand for scholars. This was war written small at first, but ready to grow. Only a handful in Middle-earth could even name what sleeps in that box, Gandalf said finally, his voice low. Fewer still would dare to wake it. Yet I fear someone already has. Aragorn's joy tightened. Then the north is not as quiet as it pretends. No, Gandalf said, glancing back toward the ruin. His face was carved in worry. The north has begun to remember. Above them, the storm thickened. Snow fell heavier, erasing their footprints as quickly as they made them. The world seemed eager to hide their trail, as if to spare others from knowing what walked this path. But secrets do not stay buried. Not forever. And somewhere, in the depth of the forest, a fire cracked where it should not. The forest was never meant to carry firelight. Shadows flickered against bark, and the pines leaned away as though ashamed to witness the gathering. A dozen men sat in a broken ring around a blaze. Their faces seamed with hunger and years of exile. They had no banner now, no lord to follow. Only Ragnar. Ragnar had once worn silver on his shoulders and commanded companies in Gundor's service. He had been praised for courage, cursed for defiance, and finally cast out for both. He never spoke of the trial that ended his oath, only that men in towers could not stomach the truth. The scar that crossed his cheek told more of the story than his lips ever did. Tonight, his scarred hands cradled the coffer they had dragged from the roots of an old hill. Its locks were stubborn, but gold made stubborn things worth breaking. The others leaned in, eyes shining with the hope of treasure. The lid opened. The fire dimmed. At first they saw nothing, only a black sphere without sheen or flaw. But then it stirred. Light did not shine upon it, it shone out of it, a faint red thread, like a coal awakening. Men gasped and recoiled, but Ragnar did not. His gaze held, unblinking. A voice touched him, not in his ear, but deep in the wound pride had left behind. They cast you aside because they feared you. They bound your name in silence. But I see you. You are crown and storm. Take what is yours. The fire crackled uselessly, trying to be louder than the whisper. Ragnar's lips parted in a half-smile that frightened even his oldest companion. What do you see? One man asked, nervous, eager. Ragnar's eyes gleamed with reflected visions no one else could share. I see the north bending knee. I see a banner, my banner rising where kings once ruled. The stone knows me. Some muttered prayers, others grinned, hungry for purpose. Exiles thrive on borrowed visions, and this one was generous. Already they began to speak of raids not yet planned, victories not yet fought. Ragnar closed the coffer only when the night had grown uncomfortably still. He felt taller when he rose, and every man around the fire believed they had found a leader again. None dared ask what price he had already paid. Far off, Aragorn walked beside Gandalf beneath a sky that withheld its stars. The ranger had questions he did not voice, but silence weighed heavier with every step. At last he spoke. You've carried burdens I've never seen. But this one, it frightens you. Gandalf's eyes glimmered in the dark. Fear is not shameful, Aragorn. It is wisdom if rightly guided. But yes, I fear this most of all. For it deceives not by lies, but by truths bent just enough to damn. Aragorn's hand brushed the hilt at his side. Then those who touch it are lost. Not lost at once, Gandalf said. His staff tapped the frozen path, punctuating thought with sound. First they are flattered, then convinced. Only at the end are they consumed. But before that, before the ruin, comes power. And power spreads. The ranger frowned. So we do not fight only a man, but his followers. Men who believe they are finally seen, Gandalf answered softly. And belief is harder to kill than steal. The words lingered. Neither spoke again until the glow of distant fire crept between the trees. Back at the outlaw camp, Ragnar could not sleep. He sat alone with the stone resting in his lap, the fire long since died to embers. He had tried closing his eyes, but visions pressed against his lids until he opened them again. He saw a throne carved from ruin, a crown gleaming like iron forged from the sun itself, armies chanting his name as if it were older than kingdoms. And yet, beneath the grandeur, something colder moved. In every vision, his face was shadowed. He never saw his own eyes. He told himself it was because kings look forward, not back. But the unease gnawed like a rat in the walls. Still, he could not let go. His fingers curled around the stone as though it might slip away, and he whispered to it like an old friend. I will not be forgotten, he vowed. Not again. The stone pulsed once, a heartbeat that was not his. By dawn, the forest was restless. Birds did not sing. Branches bent without wind. Gandalf and Aragorn stood on a ridge and looked down upon faint smoke trails curling up from Ragnar's camp. There, Aragorn said, pointing. His voice was a low growl. Yes, Gandalf answered. And we must tread carefully. To strike too soon is to scatter embers across the forest. To wait too long, he did not finish. He did not need to. The smell of iron and ash already carried on the morning air. Below them, Ragnar's followers sharpened their blades. Above them, the first hawk of the day circled once, uneasy, then vanished into cloud. The north was listening, and it did not like what it heard. The sky broke open before dawn. Clouds surged in a tide of bruised purple, as if some giant hand were wringing them dry. The air smelled of copper, and the forest floor quivered with a storm that had not yet begun. At the edge of an abandoned watchtower, its stones clawed by centuries of wind, Ragnar gathered his men. The black sphere rested in his grip, pulsing faintly as though it had a heartbeat of its own. He lifted it high, and every scarred face tilted upward as if sunlight shone from it. "You were beggars," Ragnar roared, his voice raw with fervor. "Cast-offs, hunted, nameless. But the stone has shown us, a kingdom reborn. We are not exiles. We are heirs. Tonight we rise." The men answered with shouts, some fierce, some trembling. Desperation echoed louder than loyalty. For men who had lost everything, even a mad crown gleamed brighter than the void. Yet, when Ragnar lowered the stone, something flickered across his face, doubt, brief and sharp. For in the vision that had stirred him most, the voices chanting his name had sounded hollow, as though spoken by throats without breath. He buried the thought. He had followers now. He had purpose. The lie was too sweet to abandon. From the ridge above, Aragorn and Gandalf watched in silence. The ranger's hand flexed against the hilt of his sword. "They'll march. If we wait, their fire spreads. And if we strike?" Gandalf murmured, his eyes fixed on Ragnar. "Every man will die believing himself betrayed by hope. They will call Ragnar martyr, not thief." Aragorn's joy tightened. "Then what do we do?" The wizard's gaze darkened. "We divide their faith before it hardens. Cut the root, and the branches wither." Aragorn understood. He would draw the men out. Gandalf would confront Ragnar. It was not a plan, it was inevitability. The trap was sprung with a single shout. Aragorn stepped into the clearing, torch in hand, his cloak thrown back to reveal steel. "Ragnar," he called, his voice striking stone like a bell. "False captain. You hide behind lies and relics. Come face a true heir of the North." The words were chosen carefully. Heir. Enough to sting. Enough to turn eyes. The camp erupted. Half the outlaws surged toward Aragorn, blades ringing, the others torn between battle and belief. Ragnar's face twisted with fury. The stone in his hand blazed crimson, casting his scar in a mask of fire. "You dare name yourself heir?" he thundered. "The North is mine." He raised the sphere. A wave of scarlet light burst outward. The fire died. Shadows grew taller than men, their shapes writhing across the ground like chained beasts straining for release. Aragorn braced, but the blast was not meant for him. It struck the minds of Ragnar's men. Their eyes glazed. Their shouts turned into chants, low, rhythmic, unnatural. They no longer fought for bread or survival. They fought for prophecy. From the west, Gandalf entered the ruin, his staff glowing with a pale, searing blue. His voice cracked like thunder. "Enough, Ragnar. You are a servant of shadows dressed in a crown of ash. Set down that stone." The outlaws faltered, torn between two authorities, mad captain and wandering wizard. Ragnar only laughed, a jagged sound. "You hid this from your own council. From Elrond himself. What wisdom is that but fear? You buried it because you knew its power belonged to one with the will to wield it." The stone pulsed harder, red lightning licking its surface. Ragnar's eyes glowed with its reflection. "I will not bury it. I will become it." Gandalf stepped forward, voice low and dangerous. "The stone does not serve you. It devours you. Look at your face, already it forgets its master." For the first time, Ragnar hesitated. His men wavered, some blinking as though waking from a dream. The red glow faltered, then surged again, fiercer, as if the artifact had sensed danger and tightened its grip. The tower shuddered. Masonry cracked. From the sphere erupted a vision so vast it seemed to tear the sky itself, armies marching under black banners, wolves prowling at their heels, a throne of jagged iron upon which Ragnar sat crowned, his scar blazing like a sigil. The men fell to their knees. Aragorn staggered, but held firm, his sword catching the eerie light. Gandalf thrust his staff down, drawing a circle of silver flame around himself. And in that instant came the twist. Ragnar raised the stone to his brow as though to anoint himself, and for one heartbeat, Gandalf saw the vision not through Ragnar's eyes, but through the stones. The crowned figure upon the throne was not Ragnar. The face beneath the crown was shadowed, ageless and cruel. A presence older than the hills, using Ragnar not as king but as doorway. Gandalf's blood froze. The danger was not a madman's delusion. It was invasion. Aragorn, he roared. The stone is no gift, it is a beacon. And above them, as if in answer, the clouds split. A single scream, thin, piercing, inhuman, rippled across the night sky. The Nazgul had heard. The scream still clung to the sky. Thin, piercing, endless. It seemed to thread itself into the marrow of every man at the watchtower. Torches guttered. Blades trembled in hands that had killed without shaking. The outlaws looked upward, searching the clouds for a shape they dared not see. Only Ragnar did not flinch. He stood in the broken tower, stone blazing red against the blue wash of Gandalf's staff. His chest heaved with triumph, though sweat streaked his scar. "Do you hear it?" he cried. "The riders of shadow come not to strike me down, but to honor me. Even the unseen bow before their king." The men wavered. Some knelt, desperate to believe his lie. Others backed away, faces pale as bone. Faith was cracking, not in Gandalf's favor, but into chaos. Aragorn stepped forward, sword raised but voice steady. "You speak of kingship as though it is a crown snatched from the ground. But a king bears the weight of the living, Ragnar. He does not trade them for visions." Ragnar spat. Easy words from a ranger skulking in wilds. "You carry no crown, no following. You are heir to nothing but silence." The insult should have slid off Aragorn's weathered composure. Yet something in the sting found its mark. For all his discipline, Aragorn's eyes darkened. He had spent years walking nameless roads, watching his people fade into myth. He knew the ache of hidden bloodlines. Ragnar's words exposed the wound. He lifted his blade higher. "Then test me. Steel against steel, not this sorcery." For a moment, Ragnar almost lowered the stone. Almost. His hand twitched, the man within fighting for ground. But the sphere pulsed again, and the choice was stolen. Red light burst outward, hurling Aragorn back against stone with bone-jarring force. "Your challenge is beneath me," Ragnar growled, though his voice shook. "The stone has chosen. The north is already mine." Gandalf pressed his staff deeper into the earth. Sparks of white flame hissed across the circle he had drawn, pushing back the tide of crimson. His heart ached with every beat. The scream in the sky had not ceased. It was calling, summoning, guiding. The Nazgul were on the move. If the stone burned longer, its signal would grow brighter, and the Nine would descend upon the north like carrion. He spoke to Ragnar, but his words were meant for the men trembling in the shadows. "Look at your leader. Look closely. Do you not see it? The stone does not reveal his face, it devours it. You kneel not to Ragnar, but to something wearing him as mask." Some men stirred, whispering, doubting. One threw down his blade and fled into the trees. Another tried, but Ragnar's glare froze him. "I am not mask," Ragnar snarled. "I am destiny." The sphere flared again, and the ruins around them cracked. Stone groaned, dust cascaded. A fissure split the tower floor. Aragorn dragged himself upright, lip bloodied, and met Gandalf's gaze across the chaos. He read the message in the wizard's eyes. We cannot hold him here. The circle of flame was faltering. Gandalf's arms shook as he reinforced it with every shred of will. He knew this place would not contain the artifact's power for long. It had to be taken, ripped from Ragnar's grip and carried to higher ground, to where the old wards of Arnor still clung to the bones of Amon's soul. Only there could it be broken. But to seize it now would mean risking Aragorn's life, Ragnar's men's lives, perhaps his own. To wait would mean the Nazgul would follow the beacon unhindered. Both choices stank of failure. Aragorn saw the hesitation in his old friend and broke it with a single sentence. Better my death than a kingdom of shadows. The ranger charged. Not reckless, not blind, but with the resignation of a man who knows some burdens are meant for him alone. He carved through Ragnar's circle of worshippers, each strike swift and merciful. His voice rang out above the clash. You follow a ghost. Break free or break before me. Some faltered. Some pressed harder. Ragnar shrieked in rage, light blinding as he thrust the stone forward. This was no longer a skirmish. This was two futures colliding, one of ruin, one of resistance. Gandalf moved, cloak whipping in the storm. He raised his staff high, white fire streaming, and the circle of silver flame leapt higher. He shouted a word that cracked the night open, a word of command older than Numenor. The stone flickered, Ragnar staggered, and for a heartbeat, its grip weakened. Gandalf lunged. His hand closed over the sphere with Ragnar's, heat searing through his bones. For one sickening instant, their minds collided. He saw Ragnar's hunger, his shame, the trial that had branded him traitor, the nights of exile gnawed by bitterness. He saw, too, what the stone had promised him, not dominion, but dignity. The tragedy was naked. Ragnar was not power-mad. He was desperate to matter. Let go, Gandalf whispered, not as command, but as plea. Ragnar's jaw clenched. Tears gleamed at the corner of his eye. For one trembling heartbeat, the man outweighed the mask. Then the stone pulsed again, cruel and commanding. Ragnar screamed and clutched tighter. The tower split wider. The storm roared. The scream in the sky became a chorus. And Gandalf knew the climax would not be here. It would be at Amon's soul, where either the stone would die or Middle-earth would begin to. The ruins of Weathertop rose like broken teeth against the storm. Clouds spun low, strangling the stars, and the wind carried with it the taste of iron. Aragorn's cloak snapped as he climbed the last slope, blood on his sleeve and exhaustion in his stride. Beside him, Gandalf leaned on his staff, face drawn and fierce. Behind them, no men followed. Those who had lived had scattered into the night. Only Ragnar came, his shout echoing up the hill, the stone in his grasp burning red as a wound. The broken crown of Amon's soul welcomed them with silence. Here, once, the kings of Arnor had set their watch. Here, once, the Palantiri had whispered to one another across leagues of Middle-earth. Now the hill braced for one last conversation. Gandalf set his staff down and drew a circle of silver across the ancient stone. The vial of starlight cracked open, spilling fluid that hissed against the wind but did not dim. The circle flared cold and bright, a sanctum against deception. Aragorn stood at its edge, sword ready, shoulders squared. His voice was steady, though his body trembled. He will come for you, not me. But if he passes, he meets steel. Gandalf nodded once. No more words. Ragnar arrived with the storm at his back. His eyes blazed crimson, his scar lit like a second mouth. He looked less like a man than a vessel filled past breaking. You cannot break what was made before your birth, he cried, lifting the stone high. This is the North reborn. The wind howled. The tower shuddered. And then Ragnar stepped into the circle. The silver fire lashed him. His skin blistered, his voice broke, but the stone shielded him, pouring strength into his veins. He staggered, but he did not fall. Gandalf advanced, staff blazing white. The stone is not your servant. It is your master. His voice cracked like thunder. Look at what you are becoming. For an instant, Ragnar's face broke. He saw himself reflected in the staff's light, gaunt and hollow, his men scattered, his name twisted into mockery. He saw the crown he dreamed of bending into chains. And still he clutched tighter. Aragorn roared and struck, blades singing through the gale. Ragnar met him not with steel, but with the stone. Crimson force collided with tempered steel, shattering sparks across the ruin. Aragorn was hurled back, breath ripped from his chest. The circle trembled. Gandalf dropped to one knee, staff pressed to the stone floor, pouring every memory, every truth, into the flame. Hobbit laughter, the white tree unburned, sunlight on Rivendell's water, the scent of fireworks on summer grass. Small things. Real things. Things the stone could never mimic. The sphere screamed. Not Ragnar, the stone itself. Ragnar clutched it to his chest, teeth bared in agony. "It is mine," he shrieked. "It knows me. Without it, I am nothing." Gandalf rose, his shadow tall in the storm. His voice softened, almost kind. "No, Ragnar. You are nothing with it. But without it, you are free." For a heartbeat, silence. The storm held its breath. And Ragnar wept. A single tear, scar cutting it in two. His hands shook. For one impossible moment, it seemed he would let go. Then the stone flared, crimson swallowing him whole. He screamed, not in defiance, but in terror as the artifact devoured the last of him. Gandalf struck his staff down. The silver fire leapt, encasing Ragnar and the sphere. Aragorn, on his knees, lifted his voice in an old Númenórean tongue, a prayer his people had not spoken aloud for centuries. Their voices, one ancient, one air, wove together, and the circle blazed like lightning given shape. The sphere cracked. A shriek tore the sky, louder than thunder, louder than storm. Ragnar's body convulsed, then collapsed into ash. The stone shattered. A geyser of black smoke shot skyward, clawing the clouds. For a moment, it seemed the ruin itself would collapse under the weight of its cry. Then, all at once, the storm broke. The wind stilled. The fire died. Silence fell. Only the shards of the stone remained, dark and lifeless, scattered like coal. Aragorn dragged himself upright, chest heaving. "Is it done?" Gandalf stared at the ashes where Ragnar had stood. His face was carved in sorrow, not triumph. "It is finished. But not ended. Something heard. Something now knows." The words hung in the stillness. Far away, in the direction of the east, a chill rose that had nothing to do with weather. The battle was won. The war had only begun. The hill lay quiet at last. Snow drifted down over the broken stones, softening the scars of battle. Where Ragnar had stood, only a gray smear of ash remained, already dissolving into the wind. The shards of the stone lay scattered, dull and lifeless, yet Gandalf did not touch them. Some things were safer left to weather and time. Aragorn sheathed his sword with emotion that felt more like mourning than relief. His eyes traced the ashes, his jaw set. He believed he was chosen, he said softly. All he wanted was to matter. Gandalf rested both hands on his staff. The storm had left his face hollow, but his voice was steady. "Many fall not because they are wicked, but because they cannot bear to be unseen." Aragorn looked at him, something unreadable in his gaze. "Then is that not my danger too?" The wizard studied him long, then placed a hand on his shoulder. "Your danger is not to be unseen, but to hide yourself when the world needs you most." The ranger did not answer, but the words followed him down the hill. Days later, Rivendell received them with its usual gentleness, running water, leaf light, the hush of an age that had learned patience. Gandalf told Elrond everything, the finding of the stone, the years of secrecy, Ragnar's rise, the shattering at Amon Sul. Elrond listened without interruption. When Gandalf's tale was finished, he spoke as though addressing more than the man before him. "You carried this alone when you should not have. Secrets may delay a shadow, but they do not diminish it." Gandalf bowed his head. "I thought to protect the council from temptation." And instead, Elrond said, not unkindly, you protected yourself from trust. The silence between them was deep as the Bruinen. Then Elrond sighed, weary. The shards of one stone are gone, but 9 others ride already. The scream of its breaking will have woken them. Middle-earth will not sleep long. Isengard was colder still. Saruman received Gandalf with a scholar's poise, white robes gleaming against the dark of Orthanc. When the tale was told, he lifted a single brow. You destroyed a work of Númenorian craft? His tone was soft, but iron hid beneath it. Irreplaceable knowledge wasted? It was poison, Gandalf answered. Saruman smiled thinly. And yet poison, distilled, may be cure. Imagine what could have been learned, had you brought it to me. His eyes glinted, sharp as glass. The 2 wizards stood in silence. Around them, the tower seemed to listen. Gandalf's staff tapped once against the stone floor, breaking the stillness. Some knowledge is not for keeping. He left before Saruman could reply. The door closed behind him like the shutting of a tomb. On the greenway, rangers intercepted him with grim tidings. Riders cloaked in shadow, leaving no hoof prints, had crossed the northern wilds. At Sarn Ford, their presence was unmistakable. One survivor spoke with lips pale as death. They search for something small. Something hidden. They will not stop. Gandalf did not need the words spoken. He already knew. At last, he came to the Shire. Smoke curled from chimneys, cheerful and harmless, as though the world beyond the hedges did not exist. Children laughed in the lanes. Bells rang from some village fair. The air smelled of bread and pipeweed. Frodo met him at Bag End's round green door. His eyes, brighter and more burdened than Bilbo's had ever been, studied the wizard. You look older, he said quietly. Gandalf smiled faintly. And yet the world grows no younger. They sat together, sipping tea, speaking of gardens and fireworks and other small things. But when the talk thinned, Gandalf leaned closer, his voice a thread. The shadow moves, Frodo. And when the time comes, you must be ready. You must go and not by the roads. Frodo swallowed, his hand tightening around his cup. Do you think I can? The wizard looked at him long. Behind his eyes, the echo of Ragnar's ashes lingered, a warning carved in smoke. I think you must, he said. And sometimes, Frodo, that is the only difference between those who fail and those who do not. That night, while the hobbits slept, Gandalf stood outside beneath a sky washed clean by autumn rain. The stars were bright, but one seemed dimmed, as if watched by an unseen eye. He drew his cloak close and whispered into the dark, "The stone is broken. But the hand that reached for it is still reaching." The wind carried no answer, only the sigh of leaves. But far away, in the east, a tower stirred, and a flame without warmth bent its attention westward. The night felt colder than it should. And the wizard, weary and unbowed, knew that Middle-earth was already walking into its longest hour.